everyone, and thank you for joining me for day 6 of the Christmas card series. So this card has been my favorite card so far in the series. You'll see me here, and I'm using the Hero Arts design block Flourish, and I've used some masking tape to mask off the top half of my card, and then I used my Inkadinkado embossing buddy to put down some powder so that my embossing powder wouldn't stick to the surfaces of the card that I didn't want it to. So now I'm using some Martha Stewart gold embossing powder, and I'm just sprinkling that onto my Versamark ink, and I'm heat setting that with my heat gun. And of course, this embossing powder leaves a really great shine. So now I'm going to use 2 distress inks. I'm using, the green is peeled paint, and then I'm using a gray embossing distress ink, which is pumice stone, and you'll see me use that later after I put down the majority of the green. So I really wanted to saturate the bottom half of the card with this peeled paint. It has such a satiny finish to it, and with the gold embossing powder, it really brings out a richness to the color. So once I used the distress ink, then I brought in some of the pumice stone, which kind of darkened out the green. So now I've used my Versamark ink pad, and I just put it directly onto paper, and then I sprinkled that with the same Martha Stewart embossing powder and gold. And now that I've created my own kind of foil paper, I'm going to use the Simon Says Stamp Christmas Blessings die set and die cut that out of that gold paper that I've now created. I also die cut it out of white paper, and I'll be layering them in a later step. So next I'm using a Hero Arts, it's a treescape, I'm not quite sure what the name of this stamp is actually, and I'm stamping that in Simon Says Stamp khaki ink. And now I've gone back to my letters, and I'm just using some Zig two-way pen to apply glue to the white layer, and now I'm going to apply my gold layer over top of it. You've seen me do this in, I think, the very first card in the Christmas card series, where I also use this intricate die. And again, it just brings out a nice chipboard look, and adds a layer of dimension to the sentiment, which is really nice. So now the original idea for the card was to put this sentiment directly on top of my treescape. And at this point, I kind of realized that it's a little too, there's not enough contrast between the gold and that khaki Simon Says Stamp ink. So what I decided to do was use some distress ink in the vintage photo color to kind of bring some color to the white, hoping to add a little bit more contrast between the background and my lettering. So I don't actually have the distress ink pad for the color I wanted to use, so I just used some of the vintage photo on a block and then picked it up with my ink distress tool. I often do this in order to get distress ink when I don't necessarily have the matching or the ink pad that I'm looking for. So once I'm done with adding that, I decided that I wanted to mount my card front onto a card base, and I didn't necessarily want to mount it directly onto the white now that I had used the distress ink on the white portions of the card. So I brought out my gold embossing powder again and used my Versamark ink pad along the edges, and then I melted that down to give myself a gold border. Now after I did my distress ink on my tree background, I realized that there still wasn't enough contrast. So I decided to use some vellum over top of it to kind of mute the colors a little bit and provide a little bit more of an opportunity to have my gold sentiment kind of stand out because that's the classic part of the card. So here I'm just using the smallest bit of Zig two-way pen to adhere my vellum to the front of my card. And actually it really, I was expecting that you'd be able to see it, but it's very muted. You don't really see it at all. So now I'm using some gold thread ribbon, to tie around the middle of my card, and now I'm going to adhere my sentiment onto the vellum piece. So I'm using some multimedia matte here to just adhere my sentiment down. It does a really good job of adhering this sort of thicker chipboard piece or card piece to the vellum background. So once that's complete, I just trim down the bows slightly just to tidy it up a bit, and then I apply my card front onto the card base that I prepared earlier by embossing the gold edges of the cardstock. So I'm using Recollections 110-pound cardstock to do this, and then that pretty much completes my card. So I want to thank you guys for watching day 6 of the Christmas card series. We're halfway through, and a couple great more cards to go. Thanks for watching. Bye.